Frances Louise Barrison, also known as Shriek, is a human mutant. Originating from Earth, her team affiliations include Doom Maidens, Carnage Family, and Sinister Six.
Her partnerships include Carrion, Carnage, Demogoblin, Doppelganger, and Caroline LeFae. Her notable aliases include Sandra Deal. Her abilities include flight, sound manipulation, the ability to tap into people's minds and bring out their inner darkness, such as fear, anger, and hate, making them act violent.
Shield herself with a sonic field and shoot sonic energy blasts from her hands. Shriek was usually a foe of Spider-Man and the lover of Cletus Cassidy.
Shriek is a dangerous and criminally insane mutant with the ability to manipulate sound. At one point, she allied herself with Carnage and several other super criminals who went about New York on a killing spree.
Shriek's origins and real name were at first uncertain. She took the name Sandra Deal at first, but her true identity of Frances Louise Barrison was later revealed.
During her childhood, Frances was abused by her mother for being overweight, driving her to drugs, and leading to her later fixation on becoming a mother herself.
She became a drug dealer, which exposed her to situations that ultimately damaged her sanity.
Namely, being shot in the head by a police officer and being put in Cloak's dark dimension, which gave Shriek her abilities.
During Carnage's violent escape from the Ravencroft Mental Institution, he came across Shriek, who was also incarcerated and wished to join him.
He freed her and the pair embarked on a killing spree. They attracted the company of several other homicidal supercriminals, Demogoblin, Doppelganger, and Carrion, and formed a family, with Carnage and Shriek as the parents and the others as their sons.
Although it was obvious that Shriek had love for Carnage, it is uncertain whether he felt the same for her.
Shriek also used her mental powers to increase the chaos by causing a number of New Yorkers to violently turn on one another, although many heroes were able to calm the people down before they did anything too serious, such as killing their own children.
The killers fought a number of heroes, led by Spider-Man, but succumbed to infighting.
Carnage slew the Doppelganger and left the others to defeat and capture. Although he was subsequently contained by the Avengers after a clash with Spider-Man, Venom, and Black Cat.
In the aftermath, Shriek is returned to Ravencroft, but escapes her cell by short-circuiting her power-dampening unit.
Shriek frees fellow inmates Gale, Weber, Pyromania, and Mayhem, and together they try to break out of the facility, opposed by Spider-Man and John Jameson.
While distracted by Spider-Man, Shriek is knocked out with a tranquilizer gun by Jameson.
When Dr. Ashley Kafka brings Malcolm McBride near Shriek's cell, Shriek recognizes Malcolm as her son Carrion, breaks out of the room and escapes from Ravencroft with Malcolm.
Agitated by Malcolm's refusal to acknowledge her as his mother, Shriek becomes violent towards him and uses her powers to turn him back into Carrion after an encounter with Spider-Man, who Shriek plans on making her new husband after sensing a growing darkness within him.
In an attempt to make Carrion fully embrace her as his mother, Shriek takes him to Beatrice McBride, the biological mother of Malcolm, with the intent of having Carrion murder the woman.
The duo are tracked by Spider-Man, and in the ensuing brawl, Shriek abandons her plans to convert Spider-Man to her side and forces Carrion to choose between her and Beatrice.
The distraught Carrion instead begins to commit suicide with his own powers, which Beatrice tries to stop, stating, "Do you think my life matters? Do you think I wouldn't sacrifice myself 1,000 times over to save my child?" When Shriek tells her that she will be killed by contact with Carrion.
Touched, Shriek absorbs the Carrion virus, incapacitating herself and turning Carrion back into Malcolm.
Shriek is readmitted to Ravencroft, where the dormant carrion virus, which she had been treating like an unborn child, is extracted from her by the Jackal.
Later, Shriek is brought on as a juror in Judas Traveler's mock trial of Spider-Man in the basement of Ravencroft.
Shriek and the other members of the jury deem Spider-Man guilty of ruining lives and actually creating super criminals, but before they can execute their sentence of death, they are returned to their cells and have their memories altered by Traveler.
After Carnage is returned to Earth by Hall Industries, the company purchases Ravencroft with the intention of using Shriek, who had been responding well to the treatment being administered to her by Dr. Tanis Neves, as a power source for the Carnage symbiote, which had been separated from Cletus Cassidy.
Shriek is brought to Hall Industries, where exposure to the Carnage symbiote, coupled with her witnessing guards beating Doppelganger, who had been attempting to rescue her, causes her to snap and return to homicidal mania.
After Cletus reunites with his symbiote, Shriek and Doppelganger aid him in causing chaos throughout New York City, with Shriek gaining additional powers from another symbiote, which gives her a third arm and covers half of her face that Carnage had spawned.
Growing fearful of Shriek, the symbiote leaves her in favor of Neves, its initial host, to create Scorn, who forces Shriek to use her powers to weaken Carnage, allowing Spider-Man and Iron Man to defeat him. In the aftermath, Shriek is shown to be in a coma, Scorn having done some unspecified damage to the brain.
Shriek regains consciousness and is recruited by Caroline LeFae to battle the Fearless Defenders as a member of the new Doom Maidens.
After the Doom Maidens are disbanded, Shriek reunites with Carnage and saves him from Deadpool in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
The two killers flee, pursued by Deadpool, who crashes their car with a combine harvester, severely injuring Shriek and enraging Carnage.
Carnage flings Deadpool away and escapes to the base of the Mercury team, who he kills with the unconscious Shriek.
Carnage, troubled by Deadpool making him question his nihilistic beliefs.
Deadpool, who has bonded to the Mercury team's symbiotes, uses his new shape-shifting abilities to disorient Shriek, causing her to run off.
After a skirmish with Carnage, Deadpool captures Shriek, using his symbiotes to disguise her as himself, and tricks the already distraught Carnage into nearly killing her, causing Carnage, who believes his attacking Shriek was foreshadowed by the higher powers, to suffer a mental breakdown.
Shriek is hospitalized and Carnage willingly allows himself to be arrested. Shriek recovered and was hired into the Sinister 16 by Boomerang and the Owl.
After being manipulated and abandoned by Boomerang, Shriek and 3 other members of the Sinister 16 sought revenge on him in the bar with no name, only to be defeated by him, Beetle, Overdrive, and Speed Demon.
Shriek subsequently attacks a police station with Gibbon, Griffin, and Ruby Thursday. The quartet is subdued by Spider-Woman's apprentice, Porcupine.
Detroit-based supercriminal Nain Rouge afterward hires Shriek and a new firebrand to be his enforcers, bringing them into conflict with the Great Lakes Avengers.
Shriek later appeared as a secret ally to Kraven the Hunter at the time he was leading the NYPD SWAT team in the hunting the dinosaur people living underneath New York City since they were created by Stegron.
She made herself known where she used her sonic attack on Venom and then collapsed the ceiling on him, much to Kraven the Hunter's annoyance.
Shriek stated to Kraven that he can have the head of Eddie Brock after the mission. Venom catches up to Kraven the Hunter and fights him and Shriek. With help from Tana, Venom stated that the dinosaur people weren't killing anybody and that they are only surviving underground.
Kraven the Hunter and Shriek are arrested by the NYPD. Following exposure to Cloak's dark force dimension, Shriek has the ability to manipulate sound in a number of elaborate ways.
She can harness it into a destructive concussive force or use it to disorient and agitate her enemies.
She can apparently hypersonically induce intense emotion in those around her, generating fear, hate, or despair.
She also has moderate powers of levitation that she can use to make herself fly, and possibly some low level of psionic abilities.
She is able to sense the darkest side to a person's psyche so that she can use her powers to specifically manipulate that person's emotions.
Her scarred left eye is also prone to glow whenever she uses her powers. Why only that eye glows is uncertain.